tu in kipamin pusyam kaga do nom chu structure thu zon na saying kipamin power and responsibility thu say utalon hin. There's a saying power lies in the barrels, but there also another saying the real power lies with the power with the people. Hichi thu ahi pusyamin lalungyal na hin say thai ding ham adi chu alo thai lon tu ahi I context tung dui wa chu power lies in the barrel jong chu adi na tam ta min ahin power real power lies with the people ti yong hi democracy chu chi chu lo thai lo kinin chi ten ni ki kai how do you balance pusyam
to answer pen dong di hile ka kin I thei ngai chu mi pi I chi chang ka powerful zo thami chu mo Manipur context enhim le mi pi teng teng mun khaza ki gom kha chianga for example talpak te example dala le tu ta na amere pai bi te lo tu ta na khat le arrest nai lo wi chu mo to ka terrorist chi pong release wa hai teng release wa wai teng release wa tu ta na athwak chi kholiom khanai lo wi chu tear gas chi pong chu mu hi le but ideally if law and order prevails if law and order exists adik taka chu jail alud vek diwi chu mo ile but because why amount of power pen alak chang wa kha ami pi chu mo ami pi chi chang a kha government ile ami pi tunga action la tak thelawi chu because in sometimes in theory for the people by the people pen chi chang ale theory bang na mo but when push comes to shove ami pi ma aziaka kwa ma tang tak thelawi chu ami pi ma aziaka everything becomes dysfunctional if the people does not want it himai chu mo wa why zaka tu lai takale security forces thinking ne hoi taka action kwa ma tu ngala thelawi chu example de arambai te tu ngale arambai ten mi pi support ni ke le arambai ten fa kin diwi chu but why mi pi penin kha a power pen a whole changa kha mo ami pi penin kwa a support ami pi tengin kwa a support chi penom changa kha accordingly thil pai chu adik taka for example there's a saying it's not law which brings the order it's the enforcement which brings the order law you can have 1,000 laws but the question is who is the one enforcing it mo tu lai taka de in de kelele valley lama law enforce to take a police te tak khol lo to arrest bol tengu khong mai te terrorist loi ky kel chi te khong amin pu mai arrest wi chu akitwak pi lo te ngeli chu arrest tu but ami pi penin kha a protect changa kha a security forces te ma male tang thelo wi chu but the moment the people themselves in protect non kele that's the moment everybody whoever if the I would say the leaders I would say whomever so it may be if they cannot lead properly once you actually stop getting the support of the people why changa kwan hun khedi mo hanun khedi tu ami pi mai chu because normally you may tutana adik taka for example shoot on site order chi khong pe mok leu chi le kwaman in any circumstances mi pi tunga cha thau khong ga bra stop lo di chu because it can't work that way no matter how much we say how much we break for example there's nothing more serious than releasing 12 14 terrorists to hardcore terrorists to le bang jaka action why na sanai laklo it's because ami pi na protect jake cho why mi pi protection pain common ne kele then the security forces will start acting and then that's when all hell will break loose at least to some to that extent so what I'm saying is the people don't realize how powerful they are and the problem is we are so disunited in this that in that angle over nomenclature which I think is so horrible that we are fighting over what name to
so
use
frustrating as well
it's as I said it doesn't matter but these are the responsibilities of our own people kwahan lead to teng why teng in no teng na kyo fel ngai wi cho mi pi teng ko mi pi te kong WhatsApp kyo ho ja kinana ja our own division gets further and further tua talpak tin ian ko da na e ki kawale the division will be further and further. And who is responsible for controlling this? At least among our society, it's the people who are leaders, who proclaim themselves leaders, who are elected leaders, whatsoever it may be. It's their responsibility. The people will keep on yammering. That's just the nature of the people. But the responsibility to calm everything down, to bring everyone together, to apologize if needed, to say sorry if needed, whatever it may be, it has to come directly from whomever is in charge, I would say. So it doesn't, honestly, as a person, to me, it doesn't matter who it may be. But we cannot come and tell you to sit down. The leaders themselves have to call each other and say, okay, let's sit down, let's solve this issue. So that even the people themselves feels more encouraged to carry this, because we keep on saying perseverance. But we need some ray of hope every now and then. Otherwise, hak sai chu sustain na jale ami pi mai chu sustain pain because ami pi sustain ke then it becomes like any other, which will take another maybe 30 years in one age. And the one thing lastly I can ni dang lai hun to ki compare pergi get hello because ni dang lai we are in we are not in the 20th century, we're in the 21st century, we're in 2024. So it ideally it shouldn't take as long as what happened before. So the comparison is not right. So because right now information, everything dissemination, everything, it's much quicker. If you can't go, you can have a VC, everything. All these technologies are available where you can discuss, where you can negotiate, where you can everything you can always adapt to the circumstances. So saying that this we took we took this long ago, this many years ago, really doesn't apply to this present situation. And in this present situation, the stark difference, aside from it being 21st century, apart from that, to mi pinhan takan ki support pin mai cho for everything. Mi pin de ibanga ke person ni chu ken sh kong ka de hiloi chu ke de chu jingcha ka thau changa ka ina ka in ko manan hal ki di wai chu ka de jingchang ka thau changa ko man ke an bulu ke di chu ka de in whatever form it may come ko iloi chu but and for us it's the only solution, obviously we say that, but if there's other solution also, anyone is perfectly fine with it. Even I can't think of any other way, but if there is, everyone is perfectly fine with it. And I want to clarify one last thing. There political aspiration but logically speaking, it's a political necessity. It's not an aspiration for me per se. It's a necessity, at least, at the very least, because with or without it, I will not be returning, with or without. Whether the leaders succeed, whether they don't succeed, I will not be returning. I can't return. I don't want to. My life is precious. The life of my family is precious. I don't want anyone to ever go through that again. I don't want to wake up one day and my home is razed and my family kidnapped. I don't want that. I don't think anybody would want that. So for me, it's not an aspiration of any sort. For me, it's a necessity. And even if that necessity doesn't apply, we will still be living as well as we can. So whether the Lammakai people, whether they help us, that's up to them. Whether they help their people, that's up to them. How hard they try, that's up to them. The only thing we can say is because we are frustrated, we will whine every now and then, which is something I believe everyone also kind of have to understand, because we are all very, very frustrated, because it's been 1.5 years approximately. And I would say I'm one of the at least lucky ones, because there are many thousands and thousands of less fortunates who are living in terrible conditions in relief camps now, because I have visited several of them when I went to Lamka recently, and it's pathetic, and I can't even imagine how difficult it must be that you meet them and you just look at them and they just look at you like you're going to bring some ray of hope to them, and but you really can't. You can only raise their issue, you can maybe help them with a few grains of rice or some things, and that's it. So whether our leaders step up, and I'm not saying you haven't stepped up, but you have to step up even further. If a resignation is needed, do it, because there's two ways to get something. Either it's through a request or through a demand. That's the only two process. If request doesn't work, you demand. If demand doesn't work, you request. And if some people can request, some people can demand, whether it's through pressure, through resignation, do it. If it's not through resignation, if you can do it without that, all well and good, whatever it takes. And lastly, I would finish off with this, that the people also has to understand that how powerful they are, even if you just look at the context of Manipur. Manipur context may at talele ithei chu kwaman kwama khoi ngam kholoi chu security forces ti teng teng le talpakte example dala mai chin pujidan mai chu lampi laya meeting teng thatun chi ki kawa tu tala common action la ngamlo, and that's because action la ami pi teng ki kaw zag me hin only, and I no sane person, even within our local itself, no sane person would want any kind of violence to break out in any way. So I think we have to remind ourselves the people are the leaders are there because of the people, and the people are there, and the leaders are supposed to lead us. And if you lead us to the promised land, we are more than happy to persevere as long as. But we cannot just, and we will keep on complaining. We will keep on saying this and that. That's something that comes with the package, I would say. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Pusyam. Kipamin. Pusyam and say to achieving the goal is much more important than anything else. For achieving that goal, either you request or you demand. And if your resignation would lead us to achieving the goal, I think we have to take that step. The chanchu in say bang chun a goal achieved in parts to be in. In hichi goal achieved the dinga to the power is something with very important, and that power I think has to be delegated from the leadership. Mipi thanei na sayin mipi at the in Manipur context as saying as a mera pai bihon terrorists are declared ki bo thojong kemat sa lawa thei pa chu iwet nai le tunin na thal choi pa hi na real power hi poi mi pi ho hi na real power hi tunin pidin mo na nom te yong le mi pi hon na din pi ting na chia chu na so cha thei ti na hi chu ta na chu government in time ka say dinga chu one picture khat ka mo in leaders or hi around in a to win a table to mi pi ho hin mi pi ho pha sama hi chi game table chu hin a mi pi ho chu hung din do property game chu ki chai jeng din the game will be over if the people stands up chu tia le to hi pathen lung sen in phat kha chun I movement hi tu to ata bang hin a momentum hi anum po and tu din mona I movement mi pi movement tiu din mi pi so sang lai ta khat hin si hi pu Dr. Selian and Zotin structure to on the say no men and say no on say lang. How do you capitalize this the eruptions of people's movement with this current situation? In sync with your political talks. Pu Dr. Selian Chitwin say
Inge phae to ni lai topic yu hi power and responsibility tiu hin I had do khat tu hi state versus eho hi win state da chu corrupt le ipile structure khat chu hetai CM khat cabinet assembly government machinery eho chu imacha lo hi. We are in a state of flux. Japan has Siam say a boy than that. So, as you end objective to achieve our political demand. I'll hit you to concerted effort in the trading art to a state of flux almost and mechanism but structure in a low while it how is it coming to tailo he. See power iti to and responsibility to the structure coordination will be ineffective, will be diffused, and we will at best be grumbling and complaining. To structure iti give credit to the elected members. 3rd of May, violence erupted without anybody going and complaining because everyone was affected, and the MLAs being the legal representative of the people in a democracy in a country like India. Amhanyong, they exercised their leadership and they, first of all, congregated in a place somewhere in the northeast and amongst themselves took due responsibility and submitted a memorandum to the Home Minister asking for separate administration because the circumstance fully compelled them to. Now, they exercised their leadership and their powers and responsibility for the people, and effectively so. Next, among a structure hinsem na dinga apoy mo dan sa helji wacho. Isola, they initiated a meeting. They called the civil society organizations and they called SOs also. And 3 such meetings took place, primarily to evolve, to construct that structure. So we have, in a sense, 3 constituents, or in our parlance, what we call lungthu, a kangthum, comprising of the elected members, the civil society organizations, and the SOO. The 3 concertedly in the lungthu concept will have that pot of UT or SA turn to UT so that we can have the fruit of our labors. Now, in a state of flux, a structure has emerged, and we cannot expect that structure to be sort of functional smoothly overnight. It's the problem is over 1.5 years now. I mean, September, tomorrow, the 3rd. The day after the 3rd will be 16 months, so 1.5 years. For that structure to evolve, we need to be patient. And who teaches who? We all need to concertedly make efforts. The MLAs, the civil society organization, SOO, and when we say civil society organizations, they represent people on ground directly. Sorry, there's disturbance in the background.
Sang vậy anh thầy lại
Unmute ki bolo sir, mute your bolo hi. Unmute ki bolo. Pusailen unmute ki bolo.
okay Dr. Shailen ang cho unmute hin kibolo.
Okay, sorry. Tu ha cho mute hamole masang cho mute amaham.
Hello P. Background noise hong mja cho abon na mute and bode in yang to ka.
So structure is preeminent, especially in the state of flux. We are fighting against a state which is already established with a structure. Now, I'll touch you MLA or legal representatives of the people, CSO representatives of the people on ground, SOO representatives of the people, the same people in the dialogue position. 3 parts of the same organic body. And for that to function normally, it will take time. So people being
Dr. Pulung said that in maybe ho head I think chun I mi pa wa chun in say that lesson pa de.
Kati chu ka sa pa ga idam pe uta I pa ka tholo le boi de. But to chu ami pi che khom na ringa chu MLA ho civil society ho le CSO ho chu it's a structure chu chilung thu chu hoit a refinable nga SO. Chua MLA ha bola bolu SO no ha bola bolu SO ka sei sit na hello. Amo ground ami pi to ke sai hi je wa chu tham khat dissemination of information hi ha sajep ham ke poi na kati dan chu SO chun Delhi banga meeting chile primarily konkile ama constituent ko ma for example ke no chu central working committee ki mu wa ken ke sei pa chu amon ground na athe zalu chu ai le aizola meeting chu MLA hon kat ako wa meeting chu civil society ho hong chu ani na pa chu aizola mi som ni langa hong wa chu som ni langa chun rep ama chun representable chu ama district area ako na mi ho representable chu for example more ako na ACC hong tengno pala ko na Kuki-Zo Association hong Chandelang Kuki-Zo Association hong lamka ko na ITLF hong गांव पे को ना कोटू हूँ अबान हुआ किकिमुआ ऐसो हों जों दिल्ली मीटिंग थर्ड में ये वाको ना हो अपडेट की बोला चले MLA हों जों बॉल हुआ ऐसो हों जों सही हुआ क्या खान हुआ जो इचे अपडेट की बोल हो जो ग्राउंड ना में पी हो को मा सुन सादिंग जो the division of labor चुन चिताउते CSO हो चुन में पी जो होमी हो जो है सादी हुई ai til hong chi dan chu ki ba lemi khomi ho chun ima cha hello ta bang na mo bin MLA hon ima cha koi SO ma cha wal pui tu le e hong ki lung dong man hi so there's communication gap o make it ji ka sei no hi ji a hi alang khana chu koi ma sei sit na hello aje chu we are an evolve hong ki sem til hiu chu chi lung thu hi chu su long ding sei se na je boarding head ording third ording a chu ki chai the lo chu lung thu chu su cha zo de chu su cha na ding a chu pha tham hat lu ding ai wang a chu ithil go no chu MLA ho lam kai na dong zu ya ama ho ekhat mo pu na chu chule civil society ho mo pu na chule SO hon central ki ho na chu imo pu na chu ki bol chi e chu ai a chu tu ni a ki bola ji nga tu na mu chi ki thu a jing le aga lo di ki ti cho he le chen ele ki le ma aya structure important he dan chu availance ke lang straight to anisa hi mo chun e ho e thau hi state led na state sponsored ethnic cleansing genocide hi ale ho chun situation na ikithe zol na wa ko na chu yung ki sem wa lung thu kha chu inei wa tan ilung thu chu isu long liu lao ikisei se do wa ikitai mo sang wa chu lung thu chu it's a structure CSO le MLA le SO pa chu haita isim tu boba MLA hon ki bol diu ministry ho ilang langa chendinga che diu CSO on ground ami pi ho khat ke olympic diu appeal ho diu SO on delia togum phal le mi pi voice to representable diu chu ipisa ai bol the wai su cha the diu demand chu kha hi chi demand pa na dinga chu ipan khom wa la pha tu ti lo wa MLA hon agenda chu ma chi a ai lo le SO agenda chu ma chi a CSO chu ma chi kha la chun iboi diu che ha sa ta e ho le ho ikichai diu hi chi a chu a chom lam tan saying ka te he chi analogy chu lung thu chu ine wai tan su da do te mei chu iti pau chu rally bol ham ai lo le MLA hon thil khat an go na wa he le civil society le SO hon comply bolding SO hon jang meeting che wa a report che hong ki le a mi pi en hita he panela khom ngai te le kiti holding ki thoding a hin chu ngai cha he structure chu very very important sam in say cho ma he legal mind ne hin analytical logical hin thil he ase le ki che chana se a ima ban imol so na diwa chu panga hin ken yong su second ka bolin ai le chu ke lon chun thu ni bo ka sei na me tu hin power and responsibility a goal to achieve na ding a chu kumhia kitu lo namte chu for the first time ikitu now chu demand hi kumhia ikitu lo now chu nomenclature chi ho internal issue government and to a dialogue nga abui pi chu demand power hi e ho internal issue nomenclature chu amodinga it's irrelevant chi chun political table disturb na ding hin nomenclature sei po te kumhia isei chin lo je tu na chu khatlang ha pana iki ha dal yo solution ding yong ai poi tu ni chu Kuki-Zo ki tinom nom chu ki tin Kuki-Zo mi ma ki tinom nom ki tin English man ki tinom nom ki ti wen a ho poi a ti ki ti han issue in kwai po te iki tu now a demand power option focus uti nomenclature to settlement jo le sei le bhana solution dem tu ai kin was a solution loading division yo ding main chance la na ding ti chu ka sei no men si let's focus the focus u ji demand was in kwai hu ti in song kin ana chu mil a the do po ti ti chu ka tao ne
cái bảo mẹ Dr. Pu tôi anh say chu chỉ đã lúc ta khát chu cái đầu biểu hi well structure hin ho hi structure lâu chỉ gal cái tí chu structure lâu ai là chun policy planning hay là strategy dòng là chun common na chu thầy lo hi ja chu tu lai khang dong ho dia gal din mana ji wa mo po na ja piha so set now hen lang kam lot now dòng là chipa hi thầy jana chu experience nei sa hon an sei hi tu lai khang dong hon na mo po na ja chu thil gal hi ki zo hi poi ti hin so mil pau tin ji chu there's a saying if you lose your patient you will lose the battle ti khadam min cha chu pu pau le sei bang Israel mi te ba yo hi patient nei lo phun chil te hi pau hi chi hi koi lam kai jong le chun thil ha sa ta ding hin ji chun hi chi structure sim do pau hi ai thei chanin tu a SO hin MLA hin CSO hin ai thei le chi hi communication hi gap thei da thei han nang le mi pi jong hi chan ham khana chu convince lo ding ham ti chu hi in cha chu chi communication gap lo na dinga hi thei chana cho ban ting le hin how do we structure in such a way that the communication gap is bridged and then we go together alang khana chu ga chai ding chun tu lai nomenclature thua chun pu Dr. Selin and phazament i demand a political demand thua chun nomenclature chu irrelevant hinanti ahin khangdong ho ha sei hele political demand thua chu asei now low now asei now chu nan te na hin tu din mona chu gal din mona jiwa chu nomenclature boy lowa mun din khana chu din wa gal chu face wa le chun phadi ham ti ja chu pu na ne ya pu na ja chu khangdong tam ta chu ki tim lal jong chu min tin chong chu an het thiên piu ti chu ka sei do nom he tu do ho hi và nei chan hung ki dong in playa participant hon jong do nom nei du ka ta sanen isi ma sang chun pu aron khat ka do nom men jun pu aron in leadership tam na te hi ti bin number 1 CSO jong leadership tam na jing land of president ikiti now jong tam ta men ani na chun churches jong many denomination which means it's leadership it's all about leadership dei na jing CSO churches chung chu na chu am group mo jong hi leadership tam na hi ti hi ki sei wa lo ding it's our armed groups are lots of presidents tu in pathen zal chun pathen pha thei bun zalin group ni hum taun KNO UPF chu ta ting le Dr. Pu na sei bang chun political demand kha jong hi no ya ichi ta bin chu ti le tu a niam hi khana thei lo ham political demand kha nei ta ba le ani chu ta ting le Kuki army hum ki ti bin bon cha bin UPF noi hen lang KNO noi yong le ki pam tan Kuki army ki ti bin mi pi lung sai na ta hin to UPF noi ya organization hizat KNO noi hizat ti ho yong hi su be ya bo na hi khat nai ki pu thei de lo ham chu ti le mi za yong ki chang in tin policy planning yong chu thei in tin chu ta ting le strategy chu thei in tin e ga sa na wang chun cha chun effective tan ki pang ten gal zo no min te ti tam ta lungel hin chi hi pu aronin how do you respond
we zangin na sei society adinga ki khel thelo khil khat hin ki khel thelo ka ti le arm movement in bolu 1987 akona event na hile 1987 akona noi pang der pu punelun thanga kona tuni chan ge hi noi hi yung chi da nu hi to start with foot soldier ho hi akum apan na kum jong tama hile areng hung kalin lam kain tu hin concept ma cho gamla in po imanuwa international relationship yang ngai lo community dang to relationship yang ngai lo to banga chu kamla iti a chu sustainable na ding a chu arm movement chu ingi ichi khang chu nom nan ti gamla thingnoya hingzo ting le tha hat gal ki kap na hangsan stage movement yang khang akhang phat dung zui nong ki hialin ichi I society wa ki hial thelo ko ti pa chi pham kan sei lo na chu phat nai factional clash leadership daisy ham ai lo le class of ideology hama chu society wa faction ta hum den ichi nang la ken tunia hi sumil ta vin tia ichi khanga factional fight ani ki tha to go ani ki man to go ani ki tha khel ki te ho chu tunin min se hi yong le hen kuki society sunga hi organization khatna lam ka organization dang alam ka kha anna pang khoma ki tha to go ki man to go ki tu to chili tamta society ai umai ichi sunga yang organization ho hi event na le inam din munwai tunia hi thingnoi hi seniority kumizat pangtam gen thei changen tho tam gala ti chu thingnoi tam zo ai ki vet nu hi le pha cho hung chi na hi le government to SO in nevin Dr. Silin to kyo hi gamla thingnoi a thai le di le chun apan ne di ki umlo ding ai le India government chu dialogue nga engage bolding hi pha na chun ipan na thei chu nama de nga chu ki panga tu ni chan ya ki panga hin a hin ta na sei land of president na ti da banga chu izat isei banga chu ku min kha khel thei lo na ai lo wa le organization structure a chu kum izam khat masanga so pi ho jelare leadership han lang UPF sungai jong le keno UPF meeting an ki bola hung ki kinil ting le adve vele kana seijin tuni nam khat hina government to SO ini kombin dialogue table khan ai towin e ho ki ho tingol le ilungelo ki bangsi pon nomenclature tu ham ai lo le demand tu hama ikina di jiwin ichi ipg ham ideal I'm trying to represent na hung ki kondo na organization ham hung kondo na that small community ichi voice to represent ka bola ka tu hompi nam khat kai ti wanga organization dang lam ka e thua ka chi sa hele e to success dana ka ki yel cho represent ka bol organization gathers ho to leadership min jong ke chu success ai gel cho kum tam ta hi in koi man in mangovin tunia jong hi ajo Dr. Selin sen kum hisab ki to thelo te chu nomenclature ang ki to lo demand ayong ki to lo galhum le ki to cho ajo piha advocate pa na say necessity ati banga necessity pa na in ki to tawe ichi imanu ni se ai chi lai wo nomenclature tu ki say lo je ho yo to hi gal them khat ong ki ma ki tha ki ma cho them khat ong ki tha a chi mang nu tho mo le ichi interest pa self propel representable organization ham kung kondo na tribe ham that terchan pu sunga chu ke ho vai hop na ham ampu pi district sunga ke ho vai hop nam pa se to represent in ki bolding le icha chu keisa nga mi thu chi le can representable organization to mi tham khat chun ke chu not capable ati dham na ai lo le pa zo chun ama thu chu ke no UPA vai lo le e ho meeting a chu hi pa chu hung chi ting le ichi concept pa hi ichel thelo pa hi tunin e ho thingnoya yong hi umachu aji chu leader too many leader iti ne chu phamiti le organization khana area khana leader khat chun ama gel pa chu namin jong achi pi ding ama gel pa chu miu sin achi pi ding ama het lo chu ipiha chi thelo ding ti tabang supreme hi now hi supreme tambe sein ya chu tuni chen ge khatna political demand chu khat a hin nai thing le nam nyong chu khan itinawi a hin in chi ikilewa organization chi ikile ting le chi supreme hi now pai a pe lo lai je ai ichi ipia Bluetooth na ki connect na distance so akhel Bluetooth to disconnect si tabang hi society ai na ki muin ichi jong i dunia hi kamlei se didal na wa hi mi king ki chinga mai bol ting le min jong ei ki cha na icha ten jong ei ko ma thil khat athum chu ei pi lawa le tia ki khai lewa le chun apa sit pa chu thil chu minum tale ichi chu bi na dinga ki pi yong thil mai chu ya chu dunia ka sei nom chu num le hen da le hen society ai ke lai kom na thing noi tiang la tamin CSO itiang le itam vin ai hin tunin hi che ki khel na ding pha chu thungai tai te kana khanin Kuki pi Manipurin to apex body hi cho kinoma cho however Kuki pi Manipurin apex body hina meeting a bola resolution ala pa chu midang ina pom lo le society a chu lung to mo na zo su ya chu ken ka sei chu dunia hi king no hian lang MLA hian lang CSO hi jong inam din mun wa hi ibol hi ibol khom lo wa le ikin ana wa pangding te kana khana chun MLA o resigning khat ve vele sei ji ve ai lo lam mi tham khat chun minister ki resigning MLA ki resign ngai poi ai lo wa le example khana eso ho chu to ngai on license talk success ponte ti voice on chu kizazi chu ai pi chu yong le nomenclature tu en lang ipi boldi yong le ibo ikyo ko mu ba SO group elected MLA CSO iti ting le chun not one dunia CSO hin there is no organization that represents everyone as a whole consensus umlo chu toy ji acceptable lu ngai chu ya chu tu idin minwa hi apoi mo hi pyamiti ai king noi arm group khat hi na in ailol umbrella khat hi na in ei ho meeting a chi resolution se chu nama tu a chi ti poi CSO khat hi na in meeting chu no hon atuma na bol thei we however nama chi le no se ki ho na pa chi ti poi elected MLA ho hen lang ko hi jong le adi hen lang adi lo hi ta jong I bol diu khat hi I bon chawa I zaw na wa decision I la lo wa le I chi a ko na he ki hen tel na ai lo wa le kilung to lo na chu akipat na hung hi ding hi ti pa hi tunia hi enge structure sim to na ding phat wang I nei lo mai theu hi tu hin ali chu kum tam ta kum som thum wal in ki vai po danu nam hin danu hi overnight na ki khel thi lo ding hi tu ni chan gya hi I pidinga evolving hi na lai wa me ti a hi le ina boi pi lo chu ting le chi necessity chana chu ti na man na namini chan I to lo ji wa chan lo chu ai tu ni chi chu I hun ta wa hi le lam kai ho zo sin I gel diu wa ka dei wang chu decision nama chi pidinga I deu I bol gu nu chu I ke ho khom ba resolution I la khom ngai atuma khanin meeting a bola decision khat la nama chi piding ta hung ki phong do I chi chu o ma hi le the society awang hi ti khen dal na chu apan ba na hu ding hi acha in tua e ho context a ka ga sei nom chu MLA ai lo le SO group chiteng le CSO tilin keno UPF ki vai hok nei event na le public yung undecided I be se wam ka ti so to ay confuse hi na la so UPF a spokesperson khat hi nen UPF sunga loi le pai ho thung ke loi kom na ka sei ji tan nomenclature issue a chu I boy ji uchun event na hi le e ho akuki ngai lu di sat ho chun a UPF a ingoi ho ke ho chu nam kuki chu ka pom lo ka ngai lu na pom zet da na mu yong mi anom cho phat khat ngai en hi chilai ta ke ma mi mal hi na ke gela political demand ki chu area au ma hin ichi area chu amun to pha dominate bol mi ke chun to ikivo lowa I demand chu achi kom lowa amo tu chen kha lowa le ichi a demand area chu iti zau dhar ya chu nam hi tunin nomenclature ki boy jong lewen ichi nomenclature ja chu e ho sunga hi ki khen na uma hi le demand area to caring tine which is that will be the beginning of our downfall demand success lo na ding ki pat na ding hi tia chu ipi hile ipun khom thot angai tia chu tam ta hi unity kin boy pin tunin gal jovin jong nomenclature public pressure umin kichi particular nomenclature che hi lowa la gal sa jong la na chum na poi gam lei set mo jong la chum na poi ti hi pressure umin leader ho jong kichi pressure a chu decision ala jong ding hi anh dunia chu hi chi chu mi dei lo kha this decisions i lawa ki kem na the hi itiwa ai hin chi hi lo ai thei poi itiwa hi le we should be ready for the consequence na achu ibol jong le a consequence pa jong thun ting le gi kisalo halang ibol jong le gi kisalo chu hoi chi pen chu ibol wa ima chal di wam ya chu dunia hi public ai lo le social media mipi voice ko event no leader condition ila go no lawang chi phat si le in chop ima chop ibol le divin kamuin no UPF to elected MLA galzuin akito komin representation ki pigo na chun nomenclature thua lungel ki balo na no ichia ki sei chu ichi nomenclature hi tuni arm group leader khat ka hi manaken ka sei tha the he poi na sei tha the he poi elected MLA khat ni mana mipi thalenga nang dunia he kuki hi diwe kuki hi lo diwe ti chunang na sei he poi let's leave these two civil society organization hi deham public hi deham forum khat chu nanti dia chu ki koye hin however hi chi chu sei tha lo movement achal thei lo dinga election I sei tha di wi I sei tha pau chu mipi in aki sei tha accept bola I chi di dunia hi khat vele hichi particular nomenclature chu movement ibol le ya inok lo diu hichi chu idei pau chu mi pi dei chi ta in bol ti ngole hilanga anom lo ho lung hai lo je a chu ilawa hong zao lo ding le adi kita poi ti ki diu pai hichi hi society ai ka vet na le we just moving to and fro we're not moving forward na hichi hi tuni hin
back and forth
hichi pa hi ai thea hi le who is the right person to decide, or are we all together going to take a unanimous resolution on this? Nah, is it negotiable, non-negotiable? Ichi abul pat pa kichi lowa mipi lung thai na chu movement bol di wale. Tunin ki gok kom na dingin ki me mat jong lewen. Ichi a chu ilung thai lo wa hele. Kiti chu movement yang chu gam le si chu ipiam mipi a ding ichi hi undecided na eu mo itu ni chang ya ka seizing in chi hi once and for all gel han khat angai chuting le achai na hit separate administration chu ipiting ai de lo manipura dinga still khat na eu khom na wa MLA som in even we are around 10 to 15 lakhs ki ka population hivin gamlei set ito pawin kum som sunga Manipur budget chu IPA ki mangam thing thanga gen the ta ne la cha nei lo lewa covid omin ai lo le farm ibol le government ko thu pina ne kha cha mu na ding system in ai bubin Manipur government in budget IPA manam they will indigenous ho culture custom tradition protecting akitin Polo Manipura ki pat nahi ativin more than 20 crore they spent on constructing polo statue. Chichu ukite denga IPA pat chum na mam. However, government abol ipiling am tela public nung hay na denga abol. Anina nung pok thong ativin nothing related to other ethnic communities na Manipur budget mangubin ale sangai festival ativin Manipura ipem tourism development di ativin ho gam sunga huilai tourism ki development ichi ho chu event na wa hile nam Manipura chi chien ko ma wa everything is in the interest of Meiteis it ha cho ya cho advocate pone say chu it has now become a necessity na ichi chu separate administration pa a meaning pa chu piam tile holdinga atuma ki vai pu na holdinga atuma pan ichi authorities inelo wala Manipur no esen ki le ki jong lewen we are going back to square one. Administration job mo an bol kidding. Center ako na development pan hunzo si may the interest abo ki mang kidding and we will perish. Na ichi chu ahin mi pin tunia chu. Ichi separate administration chu tunin iha mo wale maybe it'll be a state or union territory or ai lo wa hele a necessity to IPM mail administration noya loading financial autonomy needing IPM ichi ajo anaseon peace first solution then solution na ti pau chu ai thelo na pa chu chichu hi it has now become a necessity ya chu government gela chu peace of the solution ka pi di wi tizong le ichi chu that solution is going to bring peace na ichi lo wa chu tunya even if we go back the same process will repeat ya chu mi pi in tunya hi lam kai ho jong ki lung to tin IPM angai cha pa chu ichi e ho ding ha apum be a thil khat hung lo wa le Indian government a kona e ho in zo lo diu he tai to think like land rights to think like financially develop ke bolding igam le se no ichi zo se chu I ma cha chu I bol zo lo diu he tan tunya ga le to wa ichi wa chan I pha zo nu wa hi ichi at least let's get that necessity na ya chu separate administration iti teng wala mi pi tam ta hen separate administration chu IPM jong elowa IPM mo po na jong chu umahin ai tunya lam kai hon jong kam kan hi igel was solution in what form constitution amend bol di yong le a necessity pa iti need bol sa adam ti pai elected MLA wan lang SO group lam kai lang society advocate CSO jong le ti pai ki gu ho kom na o ma ichi necessity develop do pa hin zo lo na pau problem solve lo wa gal hi akitsaya law and order problem da na government in till control a holding wang chu tunin keong kanom pon ichi lam kai khat hi na chi preventable lo ngai ti chu ka sei no me
ke pa me pu aron first piece then solution ki ti chu the other way around nan sei pa chu chi chu ke jong I think that's where we are on the same page solution first then peace chu chum lo le chun thei lo he ti chu ke jong ka chi pi jing ke pa men tu hin ai pi le pung ni lang ahong thing ta in koi tabang do nom op nei vai le tu ke holim na lung na chim lo na ti dam ai ma kori so response ki bol lo na o mai le participant ho pan in question hour cho an hong te
ken khat hen dong pen ka ting na koi pin wang sei ja ham khe thei ji hen pu aronen in answer le ke pa min tin ama sain zaum ta moderator pu he zang hi in pu seilin pu aron chele pu paulin lal adi pu siam hi boy ke pat de lai apa na chu athu su le athu sei ho hi anai ki he jinga hin tu ni la in ki mu tu he ke paum ka sain ai hot i society vana la hen ki loi khom na ki sei bangwa chu thing nui ki loi khom na kin nam si pe ka ti na thing nui ti ji kin nam se pe ka ti nam se pe ki loi khom na hi in chele hausa ki loi khom na o na hin sta le zal hang to ho bung om kin hi chang chu alang pya ga het the le hi chi chang la hi authority hi lo le legitimacy hi chi hi koi pin han akol cha ham hi ka het no men ai lo wa le hi chang ho ati sana nam se pe ya to hausa ki loi khom na hin a boundary an yam na ai lo le overlapping ham ila hi kana gel ji ne hi le kana bui ji na hoi chi pin thu hi la diam hoi chi pin thu hi la lo dem ti om jin sta le hausa ki loi khom jong hi achum ta banga ki loi khom na ji yang hi om ki ne hi le society hi ka wana le ai hoi e se wa le hen ki loi khom na sa phata nei te ti ji ne la gilta i gela le hen i ki loi khom na le i ki vai pu na hi pi pin ju ki vai pu na ham hausa ki vai pu ne jong a hang hi a ki bang lo zo ji a khu kwang ki bang lo ji ai nai ju ding mo hi jong la hang pi a zui ding khat tiam core principle ki khan hi thei le win ka mun na hi ka la he pu aronin lungsit tan in hil chin pin den adang hon jang in belap num le ke paw min te
ki pa me dunia hi question address it bol diu hi lam kai a helwa hele society a mi lungel ki ba pi lungel ki bang lo yang ana ding kata sanin izong le ken kamudana adi kan sei di ngayon kan sei tan enjoy society wa hi arm movement hong kipat na ko na il hong chi dan pa hi nang laken tunin i health hi pun hi chi hi e holding a apat lo na khadi piam ti le area khatna hi district khatna hong chu area na khoma hi chi area ni la thum hi ki khenna arm group ni la thumin vai hop na chum hu min iti hin aku ki thing no yong chu tuin gal masanga chun operational area chum ano min hin danu zu vet na operational area a chu ichi organization in achi kompi thei chu lam kaya athen chu ho salam kai hen lang CSO lam kai jong le ichi chu normal times no problem alang khan in na nam chu ichi thei le tu ne ai chi ang boy ne chu pya mi ti ai le lam kai atam ja chu consult bowling chu atami okay no problem umbrella ke no UPF chu umbrella ni in om thei ta ho poi a hi le tu ne ai hi chi a boy ne chu nam pi hin I khat na di wai any movement ai lam kai khat voice khat ai lo la mi pin a zui ding chu mi pi chu a chi kom thei na ding a chu voice khat hi lo le chi kom thei lo ding ti ne chu tu ne a chi voice khat hung do thei na ding a chu structure chi inei lo chu gal tu wang wa e chi chu tu ni hin he lo ti lew hin mi tam ta inok lo diu hin tu teng le kel pha jong chu inei lo mai thiu hin a zo a ka sei bang chun hi chi a ko ham authority chu ti lew hin it does not exist each authority structure chu ki sim do lo ji society wa ya chu tu dia ken a solution a enjoy ang ka sei tan hi problem immediate problem khat I solve lo le ichi khom thei lo diu command and control ang thei lo ding area khat ke ole am ho context a de khat sei ding district khat ke ole am ho context a khat sei ding am na chum khat bowling chulanga district chum khat en chum khat bowling dunia jong chu district a
Please unmute ke bolo pu Aaron.
okay pata kan sei chu ichi issue hi tuni change a hi even in the midst of this conflict ichi a problem hi solution khat ngain a solution chi pyamiti a hele structure chu tuni hin overnight na develop ki bol theipun however ichi ana ki loi khom na ho chun tuni ai nam hi khana chiutin mi piong kilung to tin lam kayong kilung to tin voice khana chiute iti wa hi le meeting ai lo resolution hi mi o si zaw na la ngai ati lo wa hi le ei ho existing structure ho a hi one voice ong do thi poi ti pa chu nunin avelin ka sei no me I think if that answers your question chan chui tante
cái bao mẹ po
adang ta la wa le ma le chun na khon hin tung win lang ta la wa le the bridge te o ko na ka pi do masangin pu paulin la question na chai na khat ka ga do no min Emily som ho kilung to ta na kal sun lai ta wa tu nai cha Emily thuma pa na nomenclature to a press release hong ki bol hin kilung to na lung thim pua kal sun lai ta misno phana pongetia lung na tam ta min ichi hi nang he chana pi thu mam ani na in iza theina ba ani na in tu ma sangjap chun birin to ai ho MLA house convener party du ham mai lo le adang dang ho to go ta ki mu to zin birin in jong na sata in chi cho mang cha in Kuki ho to chamna thu ka sei pan ta we ti in ama ne ri ti ba ke semen ki siong chan mi pi lung lai na sata na tong khan mi hi zat thia ki manga in la lo hi zat ki hala ipija chu tu a hi chamna thu Kuki MLA ho le tam representative ho se ham ti ho sa tan neging in chi thu a hi pu pau le lalin tham khat mi pi ho hil chen nan nei ding ham chu ta ting le chun sang boy nama phat ho chu a chai chan ge hin kila ta ding kan pi do pe
Ipa mình mấy hình thức độ chu sang phong xây thầy lâu phật giống mình à khát na MLA so mình MLA so mình birin audio leak chung chang press statement ki page ke ho MLA group circulate all masa zawat su ki so hi hey wangin constituent titaute MLA ho chu zawat se bangwen constituent mo ho thalenga hin song ho ma hin cho abe akona pressure ji jong chu hi mai thei attitude izawa who ni na say tachun who related here mi pi pressure mo lam diu ham mai lo le mi pi dinga pha khat chu I bol diu ham ti to related jong chi chung chang again ka say nom chu Kuki-Zo pom hon no Kuki-Zo mi mar mina za jong le ho mi ma hi tin gel thei wa tin Kuki-Zo mi mar di sa hon Kuki-Zo zang ho chale ku bo zang ho hello le zo mi bo zang nom ho jong amang hon jong chale Allah hon jong mi le sa ta khat hi ve ki ko na di hi dei da no chom he ti pa hin mature ta in la the o tin isanga kho zo isu address ki bol pa chu MLA so min press statement ki pi na ki sei pen chu state khara chief minister khari na chitabang thu sei na hung leak out hi ta ahila ama hi athu ki khol chil to ka in adin mun patin kila do han ani na athu hi gang thei pen ki khol han lang hep mon ne hi le dan dong zuin chung thu ki tan han ki ti chu athu pi hi unfortunately for whatever reasons it could be pressure from the constituents, pressure from some quarter, or whatever the reason might be. Chichun a issue to deflect ball down in moment. Unfortunately,
chi chu he mi ho po na chana
chichu ipo not so ke with him. Eti omlo na dinga chu izawa puara na say banga chu. Eti ya chu boy sa wa say ha na ding khat chu. Igo no hungai in ten. Civil society ho in rong panalaw bin ka in la tu ni chen ge hin dei bang ten lo ling thei nai pu ti chu wa pu sei lin an sei bang chu it is a work in progress here structure khat chu in nei lo be kha do chu asem ki go ro hi je chu it will take time there will be mistakes made and Georgia chu mo ta silva mo give up te ho ani na nan sei pa chu hil le ke ho convener pu pa ho klet chu
chance meeting with the Chief Minister and Biren Singh. Kimudanovin kazain ahinla aman asay na chu Chief Minister pan Kuki MLA ho chu nangin hin ko win lang mele MLA ho to ki ho ho mo hitin samna tu say taute atia hele ka convener pu ho khulet chu na don bot na chu nangin ko jong le chun hung lo ding ken ko jong leng hung lo ding o Union Home Ministry hello the Government of India initiative ala ngai hi eche chu Union government table la ki hol hana di hilawang chun hung thei go hi hung mai thei go hi atina lai he eche chu imacha thil seu min ka hepuen na eta banga e ho standpoint communicate ga bolai la chule tu lai ta chu kimo gin mo lo diu kimo sei se lo diu ka ti na pen ta chu nam mi pi na din pi zo pueran jong se chule nam volunteer ho hian lang village volunteer ho hian lang nu nau chapang hello le hawina su na zana tau ho jing in jong agel ha pen le apo nat pen hello le chi pi pen chu total separation mai lewa ko na atum be ki vai hom na igam sungwa inei theina diwa lam kai ho tau pi loi uma hello le lam kai ho zo khat le masang bangin min sumle pai hello le din mun ham hello le ipiam khatin hin hlem la khan te atiza na lunghan na oswa hin so do loi jong ki uma hi eta bang nampi kilung to ta puseli na sei banga ai tia kito khalo te demand khat chara kito chung chang wa hin ikito lai ta wa hin koi machalam kai che nam mi pi lungdei la lungtup chu betray bol ngam pon te ti kai ta san hin bol om di jong ka ging chapon om lo na dinga jong tau thei loi tawin asei thei loi na sei ti chun mi pi mo lung neo pu hitin izawa isei pau decision making body khat South India banga chu personality khat nunga chi dot te hi lo jewa chu structure khat chu ki sim poi mo en chi structure sim dinga chu jewa pusei lenan sei banga chu elected representative ang pan kila tu ba na jong yung kil kit na lai ding hin chi chu henge lang khara chu mi pi chu kino je chu sia minan sei tu lai technology du dam tan a delay base tai iloi jong mai te hin na hin technology za rum jong le thu hi min lo wa le technology na help thei lo jong til tam pi there are certain social processes that we need to go through to perfect the kind of structure that we seek to articulate our interest and to forcefully present our case. It's structure pachu hung evolve di panakila zingeti so kasi nom he ki pai